There are many books out there on palmistry, and I own most of the best ones. There are also lots of books out there on how to develop your intuition, your instinct, and your psychic abilities. And there are, for as far as I'm concerned, there are three different types of palmist. There are those who read books and learn by deduction. They read palms, read books, talk to palmists, and this is something. These kinds of palmists I refer to as detective palmists. They're most often Western palmists, and they have generally, not all, have the belief structure that they're not fatalists. They believe that in free will, that we have a path that is ever changing because of our present circumstances are ever changing. And I do believe that to some extent. And they generally assess from the palms, they information gather, they are very sort of scientific and logical, and look at the facts, and they often look at the chirognomy as well. Western palmists generally, the detective palmist, if you like, I coined that, no one else calls them that, looks at palmistry in these sorts of ways. Now the other kind of palmist out there is the more intuitive palmist, the psychic palmist, the spiritualists. They use a Romany word known as Dukkering. They use psychometry. They are intuitive, instinctive, psychic, for a lack of a better expression. And their technique is exhausting and highly accurate when used properly and when they're doing what they do well. And as a result, they don't generally uh, need to devour books for years on end, because they have uh, an innate sort of head start and an inherent ability to pick up on. They literally get feelings when they touch another person's palm, when they look at another person's palm, and premonitions as well, visions as well. And the downside to this is you see and feel what others are going to see and feel, or what they already are currently feeling. So this is very draining. So all of the negativity, is felt as well. So I can sympathise, and also I can see why intuitive palmists are, not so much inclined to read as much as the detective palmist, if you will. So those are the two kinds of, palmists, and the other school of thought with a more intuitive and Eastern palmist is that Eastern palmists tend to, they're very fate and destiny driven. They're very sort of fatalist, and actually Indian palmists, a lot of them believe that the lines do not change in the palms, whereas Western detective palmists, if you like, do believe that lines change because present circumstances change. And so, you have this. I think it makes sense that you have this idea there that if you touch someone's palm, or if you look at someone's palm and you see what's in store for them, that's going to create quite a strong belief structure of fatalism. Why wouldn't you believe that we have a set destiny, a set path ahead of us? So there are two very different schools of thought, and at least two very different types of palmist. And that's, as I've said, I've coined the detective and the intuitive palmist. However, there is one more type of palmist, and that is and I'm going to coin it again, the detective, the intuitive detective. All right. So that's me, and I sit firmly on this fence because I've been a detective palmist for many years. I've read a lot of books, I've read a lot of palms, and I've kept in touch with my mentor Terry Stokes, who is both. like myself as well. And I've sort of accidentally fallen into this category of being both, because actually this method of practicing, learning, and practicing, learning the theory, and then putting it into the practice, and then developing on your intuitive abilities, is actually a method that was it's nothing new. Um, it's a method that was brought around in the sort of 70s, and everyone was using it then. All the Palmists were using this method then. And Terry refers to this as subconscious amplification. And it's fascinating to me because it's combining logic with instinct. And it's interesting to me because we don't often see logic and instinct go hand in hand with each other in the same sentence. Even when do you ever hear of the instinctive scientist or the intuitive doctor? Science doesn't really have a place for intuition, which is a great shame, because it was Einstein that said imagination is far greater than knowledge. It's far more powerful. Science, unfortunately, has become very blinkered, which is why palmistry is still not recognised, and still the stigma is more powerful than the ever mountain of facts. um, Even on my channel, I've the feedback I've gotten, which has astounded me, I feel lends to validating palmistry, not even myself. So essentially, this third school of thought with palmists that sit on the fence, which you might think, okay, well, that's an easy position. It's not, because we're pulled in both directions. It is, for me, I feel, when it comes to fatalism, free will, that some of us have a destiny, a set path, set in stone. Before we were even born, it's written in the stars. Others have an ability to carve their own destiny. For some, it's harder than others to do this, but it's still possible. And there are sort of varying degrees of that destiny and how set in stone that is, if that makes sense. Now, I've seen the lines on people's hands change. I've seen that many times, but I've also seen hands of people who I don't think their lines will ever change. I think for some people they have a set path. So it's, for me, I'm kind of on the fence here, and I never used to be. I used to be what I term as a detective palmist, and I didn't really have any kind of psychic or real strong intuitive abilities. However, I'm advancing in that area. I am, as Terry coins it, amplifying my subconsciousness. So I will stop blabbering and finally get around to showing you why I've got this image here of this palm. Now, this is one of the first palms I read on my YouTube channel. I was very nervous about it. Terry sent me this palm, in fact. I had no clue as to anything except that this was a man's hand. I mean, you kind of gather that from the hair down here, maybe. But all I knew was what the hand was telling me. And the strange thing is, in palmistry, when something works, just go with it. And if it stops working for you, then analyze that. Put it on the shelf for a bit. Maybe try it again. If it doesn't work again, then you can put it to one side and you can write that technique off. If it does work, there's a reason for that. So go with it and keep going with it until it doesn't work for you. That's literally how palmists have gotten where they have. It's through trial and error. It's deduction. It's using your instincts, like all the best detectives. And this is interesting because, as I say, you don't see instinct with logic, but then you do see all the greatest detectives are intelligent and logical, but then they always trust their guts. They always have these hunches, excellent instincts. And that's what, for me, palmistry is. It's being instinctive, it's being intuitive, but it's being fact-driven and logical at the same time. It's never coming to a conclusion from too few pieces of evidence. It's looking at the circumstantial evidence and cross-referencing it all together at the same time as going by what your gut's telling you, what's the feeling. Now this palm here, this is a really weird one for me, because when I read this person's palm, I had never had this before. I experienced something I've never experienced before, and that was when I looked at the first phalanx of the Saturn finger. So, and I don't know if you can see this here. I'll get rid of this really because it's not really helpful. This first phalanx of the Saturn finger here, I looked at the tip of this man's Saturn finger, and I saw a face. I saw more than a face. I still see it now. And I saw a soldier. I saw specifically a British soldier, you know, one of those ones that stands outside of Buckingham Palace with the, I can't remember what they're called, with the big black woolly hats in red uniforms and the guns. And I felt, I just knew this man was a soldier. I just knew. It was a feeling, and I went with it, and I was right. I knew this man had a very physical career. I knew that he had a troubled upbringing and fell into, you know, it's very orderly, very strong. This was for me a military man, but also potentially an athlete. The career stems from, forgive me, that was terrible. The lifeline. That's still terrible. You get what I mean. The career line there, it branches from the lifeline. This is always a career that it requires great physicality. And so I was kind of torn, and I thought, well, this is the facts are telling me this man's an athlete, but I'm feeling like this man is a soldier. So I went with both. I said, I think he's either a soldier or an athlete, or, you know, and he turned out to be both. And so for me, because this worked, because this was new, I didn't know what to make of it. I wasn't sure if it was a bit of a coincidence. But I'm going to, in future, continue doing this because I've had it since then as well. Again, the tip of the Saturn finger, I've seen a face in this. And I wondered why this was the case, because I couldn't understand what was so special about this particular part of the palm. Why am I seeing an image just here and here alone? It's just odd. But then it works differently for everyone. Everyone has their own method, their own way, you know, that things come to them. And the tip of the Saturn finger it shows us an interest in the supernatural, which is interesting in itself. But it's the kind of mental faculties of our conscious, our sense of right and wrong. And the Saturn finger is the finger that's tallest of them all. It shows us who we are to the world. It's our, you know, it's the finger that the career reaches up towards. So it's duty, it's planning, it's the inevitable. It's our ability to kind of show how we're upstanding. You know, it rises above the rest of the fingers, and it shows us above all who we are to the outside world. And it also it falls in between the unconscious and the conscious side of the palm. It literally it cuts a line in between. And so for me, you know, I sat down today and I was thinking about it, and I realize now why, you know, why this part of this finger is showing me this sign. in some people's palms. And the reason why it's in some people's, I suppose, is because, again, for me, this is my belief, some people have, some people's palms just speak to you. You know, you connect more with them in the same way that you have chemistry with some people and not others. But also, some people have a destiny that's more set in stone than others. And so, some people's life, character, future come through stronger than others. And so that's what I wanted to show you with this palm here, and I've made a mess of it now. And I wonder if anyone else can see what I've seen here on the tip of the Saturn finger. I wonder if anyone else has had any experiences like this in palmistry. If any of you watching are what I class as, you know, intuitive psychics that use psychometry or Dukkering. So let me know what your thoughts are, and thank you for watching. I had this thought today, and I thought I have to put this into words. I have to put this into a video. So I'm interested to know what others think and how others work, how others operate. Are you a detective palmist? Are you an intuitive? Or are you like me and you sit on the fence and you use a little bit of both? Do you have keen instincts as well as logic? All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.